Good morning, everyone. Today we are examining Isaiah chapter 51, and we will be looking at some lessons that we can learn from this particular chapter. As we read the verses of this chapter yesterday, one of the things that really stuck out was this was not a message to the unrighteous, to the wicked, to the people of Israel or Judah that were not doing what they were supposed to do. But instead, it is a message to the righteous. It is a message to those few who are trying to do what is right and who are striving to be what God wants them to be. And as I tried to pull out lessons in the first sections of this chapter, one of the interesting things is it all kept coming back to the same theme. And that is, put your trust in me. I am the Lord. I will comfort you. You go back to verse number 2, and he talks about, look to Abraham your father and to Sarah who bore you, for I called him and blessed him and increased him. For the Lord will comfort Zion. He will comfort all her waste places. He will make her wilderness like Eden and her desert like the garden of the Lord. Joy and gladness will be found in it, thanksgiving and the voice of melody. So God calls upon the people to be mindful of Abraham and to think back to Abraham and Sarah and their faith and the way that they responded to God. In verse 7, he says, listen to me, you who know righteousness, you people in whose heart is my law. Do not fear the reproach of men, nor be afraid of their insults. For the moth will eat them up like a garment, and the worm will eat them like wool. But my righteousness will be forever, and my salvation from generation to generation. He says, listen, don't worry about others. Don't worry about the afflictors, those that are going to come upon you. Don't worry about a man who is going to die. He said, I will take care of you, and they are going to meet their end. They are going to eventually have their just deserts for the things that they have done in their lives. And so he calls on them to put on strength, to stand fast and to uphold the law and the statutes and to do everything that they can to be what God wants them to be. And I think the epitome of this particular reaction and this particular style of living in the midst of all of this distress is Daniel. When you go to look at the book of Daniel and you recognize this is a young man who wants to be righteous. He is willing to take steps and even put himself in somewhat dangerous situations just so that he can be a person of faith and a person who has his righteousness set in God. And God is going to take care of him. He is going to comfort him and protect him because of those things. You drop down to verse 12 of chapter 51, and God says, even I am he who comforts you. Who are you that you should be afraid of a man who will die and of a man who will be made like grass? And you forget the Lord your maker, who stretched out the heavens and laid the foundations of the earth. You have feared continually every day because of the fury of the oppressor when he has prepared to destroy. And where is the fury of the oppressor? So you have this section, you have these statements that God says of stand strong and take to heart the things that I'm telling you. I will watch out for you. I will take care of you. And this is a very different message coming from the side of things where these people have been hearing the messages of Isaiah of destruction and of desolation and of being handed over to other nations and things of that nature for quite some time at this point, from every indication. And so now you have them coming back and God saying, listen, I know not everyone falls into this category. And yes, bad things are going to happen to good people in the course of the judgment that's going to come down just based upon the fact that they are part of a nation that is not living righteously. But that doesn't mean that these people should be scared, that these people should be living in constant fear, because I'm going to take care of them. I'm going to watch out for the righteous. And so you have this continuous message throughout the first 16 verses of chapter 51. And it is meant to be a message of encouragement, a message of reassurance, and a message that really focuses on the righteous, not on the wicked. Then you get to the last few verses of chapter 51. And you have the Lord speaking to Jerusalem. And he talks about the need to stand up and to wake up in verse 17. But I want you to notice specifically how he ends the statement in verses 22 and 23. He says, "Thus says your Lord, the Lord and your God, who pleads the cause of his people. See, I have taken out of your hand the cup of trembling, the dregs of the cup of my fury. You shall no longer drink it. But I will put it into the hand of those who afflict you, who have said to you, lie down that we may walk over you. And you have laid your body like the ground and as the street for those who walk over." Here you have God saying, your punishment and the things that you're going to endure are not going to last forever. They will be passed on, as it were. The cup of my fury, the cup of my wrath, the cup of trembling, those things are going to be passed on to the one who is making you drink it. Now, in the case of Israel, that's going to be Assyria. In the case of Judah, that is going to be Babylon. It's interesting to note that Babylon is going to overtake Assyria in the 100 years between the time that the northern kingdom is going to be taken away into captivity to the time that the southern kingdom is going to be taken away into captivity. And then you're going to have Babylon being overtaken by the Medes and the Persians some 75 years later. And so you have this progression where the cup of trembling, the cup of fury, the cup of wrath is going to pass from nation to nation as those nations do not fear and follow God. The ultimate point is any nation who does not fear God and keep his commandments is going to face the cup of wrath eventually. And they are going to fall eventually. And thus is the case with every major nation over the course of history at one time or another. They fall because they will not heed the commandments of God. That's the lessons of Isaiah chapter 51, or at least some of them. And I hope that you have benefited from them, and I hope that maybe you've pulled some other things from them as well. I would love to see those if you have them. Tomorrow, Lord willing, we are going to do chapters 52 and 53 together, and in doing so, examine one of the most famous chapters of the book of Isaiah. Until then, I hope you have a great day.